On the coast of Delaware, the legendary blizzard of 1888 unleashed an ice storm backed with hurricane-force winds. Aboard a schooner from Connecticut, the Allie H. Belden, seeking shelter near the village of Lewis, the situation became desperate. 4 men clung to the masts and rigging, unable to cross the wildly churning sea to reach safety on land. 2 other crewmen went overboard and were drowned. The men trapped aboard the schooner saw distant figures on the beach, began a battle to reach them. They tried to throw a rope to the ship using a small cannon. Their efforts failed in the howling gale. The men on the beach then launched a surfboat into the waves. In the harrowing wind and surf, they would row and then anchor to rest before rowing again. They finally reached the wrecked ship 9 hours after the rescue operation began. The 4 sailors on the wrecked schooner were saved. The men who repeatedly risked their lives to save the sailors on the doomed schooner were not ordinary bystanders. They were highly trained employees of the federal government. These employees, known as surfmen, operated in small teams positioned along the coast. By the time of the blizzard of '88, the surfmen were experienced at conducting rescues in perilous conditions. It hadn't always been that way. The federal government had started a life-saving service within the Treasury Department in the 1840s, but the effort was poorly managed. Beginning in 1871, the United States Life-Saving Service was transformed into an exemplary organization by an unlikely hero. Sumner Kimball had not labored in salt spray. He was a lawyer from Maine working in the Treasury Department, a block from the White House. Assigned to manage the life-saving service, Kimball discovered that equipment was rusty and employees were often unsuited for the strenuous work. Kimball instituted standards for employment. Many new recruits had worked as fishermen. They were at home in rough surf and bad weather. The surfmen were organized into small teams. 6 men would man the surfboat they were issued. A 7th man, designated the keeper, would command the life-saving station. The stations were positioned along the coast, near places with the highest maritime traffic. In early 1875, the National Armory was asked to help. The re-energized life-saving service wanted a device that could throw a rope to a ship in distress. After extensive experimentation, a young West Point graduate, David Lyle, perfected a small cannon that would be named for him. The Lyle gun could shoot a weight with a light rope called a whip line a few hundred yards, far enough to reach a ship trapped on the sandbars or rocks in rough surf. The ship's crew could use the whip line to pull in a heavier rope which had a pulley attached, and then another critical piece of gear was deployed. The breeches buoy was essentially a buoyant life ring with canvas breeches built into it. A person could sit in the life ring and be pulled to safety. This specialized equipment was carried on a beach cart, which would be pulled to the surf's edge. The noted American artist Winslow Homer was captivated by a demonstration of a Lyle gun and breeches buoy rescue performed by a life-saving service crew. It helped inspire his dramatic 1884 painting, The Lifeline. By the end of the 19th century, the U.S. Life-Saving Service operated stations along the Atlantic coast, the Great Lakes, the Pacific coast, and the Gulf Coast. By the time the service was made part of the newly formed United States Coast Guard in 1915, it was estimated that hundreds of lives had been saved by the actions of the surfmen. Sumner Kimball died at the age of 88 in June 1923. A century later, the United States Coast Guard still carries on the mission of the surfmen. And one of the newest and most technologically advanced cutters in the Coast Guard bears the name of the leader of the U.S. Life-Saving Service. The 400-foot Coast Guard cutter Kimball was commissioned in 2019 and is a dynamic memorial to the man who made the U.S. Life-Saving Service a truly heroic part of the federal government. This video was brought to you by the Public Education Project, an independent nonprofit group dedicated to improving public knowledge of the government by sharing the rich history and exciting stories of the federal agencies that serve our nation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe now to start your journey into the fascinating history of the U.S. government today. If you'd like to delve deeper into the rich history of the Coast Guard or any other federal agency, be sure to visit our Agency Histories page at publiceducationproject.org, featuring nearly 250 detailed pages showcasing the diverse stories of agencies dating back to the nation's founding. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook so you don't miss out on new videos and updates.